Hey, it's Danny from ProjectManaverse.com, and in this video I'm going to share 4 common project implementation mistakes. So let's jump straight in. First of all, what's a project implementation? Well, the project implementation, especially for a software IT project, is the culmination of your entire efforts of the project when you actually go live with the thing that you have built. It's that big event at the end of the year or the end of the project where you finally put your code live into that production environment and your customers can start using the application. Your project implementation is also known as your project go live. It's the biggest event of the project. It's a big deal. So that's what it's all about. It's when you actually put that code into the production environment and it's out there for people to start using it. Now, why is it important that you as a project manager understand what the common mistakes of an implementation are? Well, as I say, the implementation is a big deal. It's when you put your code live, so it's when your customers are going to be using it for the first time in the real world. And obviously, if that goes badly and the code doesn't work or the product doesn't work, that's going to have a bad impact on you. It's going to impact your reputation in a bad way, the project's reputation. And of course, you're going to probably lose money if the product doesn't work and you've got customers complaining that things aren't working correctly. So it's a big deal. And you need to remember that when you go live with your project, you need to pick a certain date when you can do that, and that date is usually quite hard to get secured. You can't just pick any old date. You've got to arrange it, make sure that it forms part of the company's release cycles. If there are release cycles, you've got to make sure your business stakeholders are happy with it. It's not impacting other areas. It's usually quite hard to find a good window to go live with, and there's not many often of them in a quarter of a year. So if you miss this chance and your implementation doesn't go well, then you might not have another chance very soon to do it again. And that means you're going to have to keep the project running, extra costs, and also if you don't hit your implementation date, it does usually have some kind of consequence, be it the least impactful consequence is just that you have to keep the project going and keep paying for resources. The other consequences could be some kind of breach of regulation if you're doing a regulatory project, or if you're doing a project in response to a new law. There could be legal implications. So there could be some big deals, some big consequences if you don't get the implementation right. So that's why you as a project manager need to do everything that you can to make sure the implementation goes smoothly and your product goes live without any problems, and then you can just go into your warranty period and make sure it all works and just help with any small issues that come up during that warranty period. Okay, so that's the context and the background. So let's go into the common mistakes. The first common mistake of project implementations is that all the governance has not been adhered to or met before you go live. And that's very important, because if you get caught out at the last minute and someone says, hold on, you haven't done this part of the governance, they can actually block the go live and just block the entire thing. And that is a very bad position to be in. I did a project once when I forgot to do a couple of things, and I just realized I had to do them in the last couple of days before the go live, maybe like the day before. And these governance gatekeepers, let's call them, they called me and said, we haven't done this, you can't go live. And I was trying to keep it secret from all the other key stakeholders, and I was frantically trying to get this bit of governance done. I did it eventually, but it was a close one. It had me sweating for a while, because it would have been quite a big thing if I had to put my hand up and say, sorry guys, we can't go live because of this issue. So make sure that you have done all your governance. So make sure you're reading up on the governance early, you understand what the policies are, what the procedures are, and you start going through that governance right from the start of the project, pretty much as soon as you can. There's no reason not to start it as soon as you can. So make sure you get your hand on the document that says this is what governance needs to be met in order for you to go live with your product. And there usually is quite a lot, especially if it's an application or a piece of software that is used by external customers. There's going to be a lot of governance to make sure everything has been done correctly, all the tests that have been done that need to have been done. And sometimes these aren't just little things. Sometimes they're quite big things, like database failovers or big IT tests that need to be done to prove the system is resilient and that the IT security is in place so it can't be hacked. Some of these tests are quite complex, and if you forget them and miss them last minute, you could be blocked from your go live, or at the very worst, you'll have to get an escalation call, go up the chain of command to try and get a waiver to be able to try and go ahead without doing that piece of governance. And you don't want to be in that position. Number one, it's really reflects poorly on you as a project manager, because you basically showed you've dropped the ball and it just doesn't look good, and you don't want to involve these senior stakeholders in those kind of things because you should have handled it early on. Okay, so that was common mistake number one, all the governance hasn't been met. Common mistake number two is more to do with running the implementation itself. So when you run your implementation, you're going to have what's called a SOE, or a schedule of events. And it's basically a long list of all the activities that need to happen throughout the weekend, who's doing them and what time they need to happen. So you're going through tick, 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 tick. Now that's usually well prepared, but I have seen a few times during the actual implementation, everyone knows what they need to do, and they sometimes just go ahead and start doing it without telling usually we have a command and control, we call it, who are operating and coordinating the entire implementation. That could be one person, it could be a team, could be you as a project manager, could be an implementation manager you have, but there's some kind of command and control center that's running that SOE and making sure everything has been done. And what you should be doing ideally is opening up a big Teams chat with all the stakeholders, and every single task, let's say you've got 100 tasks, task one, it's been done. You put it in that chat, tick, it has been done. It was done at this time, it took this long. Task two, yep, that's been done. Who did it? I did it. Okay. So as you're going through, you're getting confirmation from all the stakeholders that are doing those activities as they are being done, and that command and control center is ticking them off. What I sometimes see is that doesn't happen, and then the command and control center loses track of where they are in the schedule of events. Things get confused, it starts to get chaotic, and chaos, as you know, we don't want chaos in projects. As a project manager, you want to bring order from chaos, not create chaos, because if you start having chaos, that's when things start to go wrong, and that's when you start to add risk to your project, and that's when you start to risk your entire implementation. So make sure you follow that SOE, that schedule of events, and you're ticking it off in real time as the tasks are being done. That was common mistake number two. Common mistake number three is we don't often ensure that the resources that are working on the weekend, take a step back. These implementations are usually done on a weekend because usually no one's using, if it's an internal software, no one's really using the software on the weekend. So you've got a window of time to take down the production environment when no one's using it and do your upgrade, so almost no one notices. So when they come back in on Monday morning, it's all been upgraded or it's all been changed, and it should be seamless. So we often do them on the weekend, and the implementations usually do take a while. So you could be working around the clock all weekend, so working through the night into the morning hours. And because of that, you don't want one person or one engineer just working 48 hours straight, because that could lead to mistakes when they get tired. So you want to make sure you've got split resources that can work in shifts. So 8 hours on, 8 hours off, 8 hours on, 8 hours off, or however you want to do it. Try and do that because it keeps everyone fresh. And again, it reduces risk. When you start overworking people, that's when mistakes start to happen and you start to put your implementation weekend at risk. So make sure you plan it carefully, you know who the resources are, and you make sure when you're going through your SOE with your implementation manager or your command and control team, just make sure you haven't got the same resource all the way throughout the whole weekend. Make sure you've got two people who can cover that role. Okay, that was common mistake number three. Common mistake number four is that not all stakeholders are informed of the implementation. So you either miss some stakeholders or you don't tell them in time, and this can cause you problems. I've seen it before, I've done it before myself, especially when you've got a project or a system that you're changing and that system has downstream impacts and it's wide ranging. There's lots and lots of stakeholders out in the business that could be impacted by this change. If you miss some of those stakeholders and they find out about the change too late, they could put their hand up and start saying, hold on, we didn't know about this. I'm not happy with this, I'm not comfortable, we haven't prepared for the change, and they can try and stop your go live. Again, you don't want that, because obviously you want to go live. You don't want to negatively impact your customers or any stakeholders. And also you don't want the embarrassment of having missed stakeholders, because that can be an embarrassing conversation if you're on a go, no-go call. That's like the call you have before you make the decision to go live, usually like the day before the implementation. And you've got a stakeholder saying, nope, I'm not happy to go live because I wasn't told about the change. That's not good. You don't want to be in that position. You want to make sure you've covered all your stakeholders and there's no last minute surprises, because it can either stop your implementation, or that's the worst case, or best case, you'll just be embarrassed by it and it doesn't look good on you as a project manager. Okay, those are the 4 common mistakes. Let me recap and then we'll call it a day. Common mistake number 1, you don't do all the governance. So make sure that all the governance is done, you haven't missed anything, so they can't block you last minute because you haven't got something done that needs to be done. Number 2, make sure that the SOE, the task, the schedule of events is being updated in real time as you're going through your implementation. Don't get behind schedule, don't get off track. Try and keep everyone focused, and as they do their tasks, they're letting you know, or letting command and control know, that task has been done, so they can update and tick off the SOE with the real timings. Common mistake number 3, the resources are working round the clock and we're not working in shifts. They want to keep everyone fresh, so work 8 hours, take a break, work 8 hours. And then common mistake number 4 is that not all stakeholders are informed of the implementation, or they're informed too late, and that can cause problems. Okay, that's the video. Hope it was useful. If you'd like to, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this one, hit that subscribe button. I'm doing daily videos for the time being. And until tomorrow, please take care.